All right, guys, now that we have spent some time refining our selection techniques using the select menu and introducing you to some basic masking techniques, I want to work on refining some of the masking that you will be doing, okay? And so I'm going to go back to this image of Sia where you can see that I have an adjustment layer mask and I've colored her skin, and in some respects it looks really great, and then in other respects it doesn't as much. And the biggest issue I see here is her lips. The edge around her lips is jagged. It looks worse because the red and the green are complementary colors, which are highly contrasting. So it's going to make one or the other look worse than it really is. So what I want to do is I want to come back to this adjustment layer mask and edit it. And you can do that by either double clicking on the mask, okay? Or more simply, you can come to your properties panel and you'll see that I've got two properties associated here. I have got the hue and saturation adjustment, and then I've got the mask itself, okay? And the first thing I would urge you to consider doing is adding just a simple feather. As I add a feather here, you're going to see that lip line begin to soften, and it already looks much more realistic, okay? And I've over softened that a little bit, so I'm going to come back. So maybe about a 3.5 or a 4 looks really pretty good, okay? So I'm happy with that, but I'm still not happy with the ear over here, okay? And it's not allowing me to move while I have this open, so let me close it. And now I don't need to move it, so you can see it, obviously. There's just a weird transition here that I'm not loving. So I have a couple of options here. Again, I can see if I can use just a simple masking technique since it's already a mask. So I'm going to use my brush and I'm going to do it at 50%. I'm going to lower the size of that brush because it's very large. And let's see, yeah, actually I can come in here and do some editing using basic masking techniques. So I'm going to step back a little bit because I overshot it. But if I look closely here, you're going to see that that green and the way it's mixing with her hair looks a little bit awkward. So again, I'm going to use my brush. Remember, you use black and white. The black is going to hide, the white is going to show. So what I'm acting on is the green layer, so I'm going to hide some of the green. And I don't want to do it at 100% opacity. I'm going to do it at 50% just so I get a more subtle shift. And so I'm just going to come in. Again, I'm using a pretty soft brush. Okay, and I can come in and then maybe make my brush a little smaller. Okay, and just see if I can't brush over the hair a little bit, and that's too much. So maybe if I take it down to 23-ish, let's see what happens there. Okay, and if I just do that subtly enough, you'll see I'm starting to get that blonde hair on top of her ear, and that works pretty good. And I'm just going to flip my white and green, and I'm just going to come up a little bit here, maybe at about 50%. Actually, I need to do 100% for the white. And just kind of bring that skin in. Okay, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time just going back and forth, but you can see again that if I were to play with this and continue to play with my opacity, I could continue to work this in. Okay, now this was the file I already had open. I want to come to a new version of the same photo and approach this differently, okay, using masking techniques and methods we have for refining our selections. So in this instance, let's say I'm going after her hair rather than her skin, and I'm going to use my quick selection tool, okay? The quick selection tool, even though I've gone through all of the other selection tools in terms of your training, the quick selection tool is really one of the best. It's the easiest to use. You're holding and dragging. You can go back and forth. But the main reason that your quick selection tool is the best is that it has edge detection built in. So the more you go back and forth, if I start on her hair, for instance, and it starts to pick up the background, Photoshop is picking up the color pixels that I go back and either add or delete, and it's remembering, okay? So I went and got all of her hair, and of course I've ended up picking up some of the background and her face, so I will come back and undo some of that. And as I pick up some of that color, Photoshop is already helping me. It's like, okay, yep, I get it. You didn't want gray. And so I can go around that pretty quickly. Okay. I also don't want her skin, so I'm going to come up and pick up that stuff and try to get rid of it. I still have some great background here that I don't want, so I'm going to continue to refine this. Again, just using my quick selection tool. Okay. I don't want her ear. I want more of her hair, so I'm going to make my brush smaller. I'm going to come in and just try to drag down. Okay. I'm going to go back to subtract from my selection and make it smaller. Okay, I'm going to work a little bit on her skin here, up around her forehead, this eye area. Again, I still have a little gray here that I don't want. Got some gray here that I don't want. And what I want you to concentrate on is getting basically as much of the hair selected and leaning on the side of having a little bit of it missing versus having, you know, too much of extraneous information in here, like the gray background or her forehead. Because I can come back when I refine this selection and add some of the hair back. There are tools that exist to help me do that. Okay, I'm still adding to my selection. I need to make sure I get some of this hair and this hair. Okay, I can come back again and subtract out some of this gray and some of that gray. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and say that's where I want to stop for now. We'll just see how this goes. I'm going to come up to my options bar and I'm going to select and mask. Okay, and you're going to get put into a refinement mode. And what I want you to pay attention to is obviously what I'm working on is her hair. And I can come over to my properties and see my view. Okay, it's set to onion skin, just meaning that it's making everything else transparent. So I have a sense of what I'm working on. I can also change my mode to black and white so I can actually see where that masking mode is taking place. Okay, I'm going to go back to onion skin. And if edge selection is not open, go ahead and open it. And what we want to do is add a little bit of a radius around her head, okay, or around her hair. And you'll see that that shifts a little bit. If I drag that back in and drag it out, you'll see some areas shift ever so slightly. I'm going to go ahead and set mine to about 3 and we'll just see how that works. And then I'm going to turn on Smart Radius. And that's just telling Photoshop to help me out, help me figure out how, you know, that I want to pick up other things that are like what I have selected here. Okay. And so now within this mode, I can come over here and I've got a set of tools. And so I still have quick selection, so I can come in and work a little differently. Okay, I can continue to add and subtract. And come in. I meant to add that hair. Let me add that hair back. And then I can come in and things like this, subtract some of the skin. Okay, again, I don't want that skin selected. If I go to color her hair, I don't want to have, you know, green skin or green eyelashes here. Just realize that's showing. Okay. Make sure her ear's not there. I'm going to get rid of some of that gray background that's still present here. Okay. A little bit of darkness there. I'll add just a little bit. Well, that looks pretty good. And just where her hair is here. Accidentally picked up her shirt. Let's get rid of all of that. Definitely don't want that. Okay. All right. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use this tool that's right underneath Quick Selection. That's my Refine Edge brush tool. Okay. And you want to make sure your brush is set large enough because what we want to do is we want to work around the edges of the hair that we have selected. And it's going to try to pick up the extraneous hair that I could not pick up with the Quick Selection tool. And again, I'm going to try making this just a little bigger. I'm going to keep my brush soft. And what you're doing is you're just working on the boundaries here, okay? And this usually does a pretty good job of picking up loose hair that we know exists. Okay, see how I'm able to grab these little areas of hair. I should be able to come in here and have it pick up bangs. Okay, see how that's picking that up? I can come here again. I didn't work all the way down, so I'm going to come down here around the edge of this, work here around the edge of that. Okay, I can try to work around here and here. Okay, and I can go back to black and white and make sure I haven't deleted anything that I meant to keep. And so I have actually sort of faded out this little area of hair here. So I'm going to make sure I add that back to my selection. I'll make sure I add that. Okay, I can go back to my onion skin, refine that edge just a little bit. Okay, and a great way to test, of course, is actually just to go and play with an adjustment and see what this is looking like. So I'm going to come down here at the bottom. You'll see that you have an option to output. I want it to be a selection, so I'll say OK. And with that selected, I'm going to come over and apply a hue and saturation layer adjustment. And I'll swing her hair over. Okay, and close that, and I can see what my selection is looking like. I can zoom in. And I can see that this looks pretty good. Obviously, you know, I didn't pick up the forehead, which was one of the really big end goals, but I have a few areas that are still a little bit problematic. And for me, I think it's easier to see this way. So I'm going to go ahead and double click, and I'm going to come in and just refine my selection some more by adding and subtracting. So of course, I want to add this hair. And what's nice now is it's acting a little bit more like a paintbrush. So I can come in and fix some of this. Missing a little bit here, missing a little here. Okay, and then I can come back in and refine that a little. Okay, so it's picking that up from her skin, a little bit there. Okay, I'll go ahead and accept. Take a look at that, and you can see obviously the bangs are looking better than they were. Okay, I still have some areas that would need a little refinement, but hopefully I've given you enough examples here that you could continue to work on this on your own. I need to clean that up a little bit. I have a little here that could use a little more purple, of course. And then, of course, I've got this hair over her ear that I neglected to pick up with the refine tool. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end today's lessons there. I've given you quite a bit in terms of masking, cleaning up selections, and refining selections. If you have any questions or concerns with this material, please make sure you email me. I can also provide you with other videos that come from LinkedIn Learning or YouTube that can continue to help you develop your masking skills, is what I was trying to say. Have a good night, folks.